I'm Jared.
I'm Brandon.
And this is the Heel to the Face podcast. A few changes in the broadcasting landscape of WWE. And every single week we come into these shows, and about a day or two before I have an idea of what we're going to talk about, and about 5 minutes before we go on air, everything just completely changes. We'll talk about what is the latest as of this show, probably about 5 minutes ago, and some other news that is festering as of recording. It's including a certain event named SummerSlam. That and so much more as the Heel to the Face podcast starts right now.
Fans celebrate with me from Rome to Rochester.
Bad luck seems to be my middle name. They might as well tag me up with my buddies from Syracuse.
So another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast is on the air. Brandon at Icebreaker21. That's where you can find him on social media. Myself at K-Rock. Jared, a lot to talk about. AEW's Double or Nothing pay-per-view coming up this weekend in front of a full house of fans. Essentially the first full house of wrestling fans outside of maybe some indie show that I'm not aware of since the pandemic, because WrestleMania obviously wasn't in front of a full house. AEW's been running at about 25% capacity, so a full house of fans. But don't worry, WWE is on the horizon to do just the same. In fact, Before we get to AEW this weekend, we'll start right there. When we went off the air last week and a few days after WWE officially announced what we were talking about, and that they were going to return to fans sooner rather than later. We were talking about how Fox was making the push, and they made the push. In fact, they made the push that it's not going to be SummerSlam. It's going to be a SmackDown in Houston, Texas, followed by Money in the Bank.
Yeah, July 18th is the official start
16th.
date. Is it 16th?
18th is Money in the Bank.
That's right.
19th is Monday Night Raw.
So middle of July.
Yes.
We're cooking.
And it's kind of interesting when it comes to where they picked when it comes to the venues, because they're starting out in Houston for a SmackDown.
Sure.
Monday Night Raw's in Dallas, but it's Fort Worth that's getting the pay-per-view on Sunday night. The Dickies Arena, which apparently has only hosted house shows before. I don't think they've hosted a Raw or SmackDown because it's a fairly new arena. Yeah. But for the most part, I don't think Fort Worth has ever hosted a pay-per-view, period.
Not that I can recall either.
I know some Raws and SmackDowns that have been in Fort Worth. I think the Raw the night after WrestleMania 17 in Houston, that was in Fort Worth at, I think, on the campus of TCU, something of that nature. But they're getting a pay-per-view. They're not getting the Raw or SmackDown. They're getting the pay-per-view at this new arena that I think fits like 14,000. So far, ticket sales are going okay, but nothing is just sold out immediately. So if you are a WWE fan, whether in those areas or the areas that are coming up, you know that tickets, you can get your hands on them. It's not impossible. They're not just going to be swooped right up. In fact, they've announced 3 more cities, Minneapolis, Cleveland, and I think Kansas City. Those are coming the following weekend. They're calling it a 25-city tour.
I saw that.
Which is kind of confusing to me because I think WWE, if I'm not mistaken, what this means is they're going to be on the road full-time now.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. I think they're that page is turned, and they're going full bore again.
So if that means they're on the road and they're not going back to the Thunderdome, then why do they, what do you mean 25-city tour? Tours have a start and an end. And according to WWE, this starts on July 16th, ends on Labor Day. But then what after Labor Day?
Yeah, that to me is a little confusing. I think maybe it's a test run to see how things go. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure what WWE's thinking there, but maybe it's a test run, see how things go, and then from there, maybe they're totally off the races. It's a promising sign, though. You get a 25-city tour here coming up, so that means fans are back. It's an element that we've missed sorely, by the way. We've missed that sorely. So I'm excited for it. I know we're going to talk a lot of Double or Nothing a little bit here. I'm excited to see some fans there as well. This pay-per-view is going to be a lot of fun.
They announced this a 25-city tour for WWE, and if you count between July 16th and Labor Day, you count the Raws, you count the SmackDowns, that lets you know that there's more 25 than there are Raws and SmackDowns. So there's going to be some house shows apparently mixed in there as well.
I like it.
That's going to be interesting to see. We'll see. Obviously, so far everything that's been announced has pretty much been a Raw, SmackDown, or Money in the Bank. But there is one event that coming in August that also seems like it's going to be a very big event. Now, to preface it back in my own personal life, I've been to Las Vegas a few times, and it's been a few years because of the pandemic and it's just been a few years, just in general.
Sure.
I didn't plan the first time going to go a lot, but I had an ex-girlfriend whose parents went a lot. So that afforded me the opportunity to go on a semi-regular basis. And then I decided I want to go again. And more importantly, I want to take some people who've never been. So a couple months ago, I brought it to my friends, one who's never even been on an airplane, one who, as of this weekend, he's been to Florida a bunch, but this will be the most west he's been. He's coming with me to Cleveland, Ohio this weekend. So he's never been west of Cleveland. So he's never been out of the time zone.
Wow, that's funny because even I've gone farther west than that.
Yes, and that's really rare. He hasn't gone farther.
Wow.
So he's never been, let's say, out of the time zone. He's been to Disney World with his family and stuff like that, but he's never been out of the time zone. One's never been on an airplane. The other one's never been on an airplane, has been to WrestleMania with me in Detroit many years back. So he's been a little bit further west, but no more west than Chicago.
But no planes before. Wow.
But no planes before.
Wow. Very interesting.
All right. So I told him, hey, maybe we should all do this. And weirdly enough, they said, you know what? You got to do it sometime. We're not getting any younger.
What the heck?
Let's do this. I told them that Las Vegas is normally very cheap because it normally is. So that was the plan. We didn't think much of it. And then more recently, I started to look into the plans of planning to go to Las Vegas and realized maybe because of the pandemic, tickets got a little pricey for things.
Sure, of course.
Tickets got very expensive, and all of a sudden, my promise of being, this is going to be the same flight as to Orlando or to somewhere close because it's a big destination. All of a sudden, tickets were in the $600 range.
Is that round trip?
That's round trip.
Okay,
but
it's still pricey.
It was about $200 for me to fly to Florida for Tampa pretty recently, outside of the little bugaboo that I had. So $600 is pretty pricey. Now, to put that into perspective, if you do or do not fly, a flight from New York City to London right now on average is about $650.
Wow.
So, yes, very expensive.
Wow.
The most expensive flight I've ever actually been on within the United States has been about a $400 flight. I took a $400 flight from Syracuse to Los Angeles before. And
wow.
Yes, that was about 5 years ago.
Dude, so for $50 more, I could go across the pond, essentially.
Yes,
wow.
Well, typically, I mean, obviously right now, things might be different because, again, the pandemic and that being closed and maybe when things open up. But the point is, I think the reason that flights were going up was a lot related to people wanting to travel again.
Of course.
Yeah,
they've been stuck in confined areas for so long. It's like, I want to break free and get the heck out of my normal area.
I think when I went to WrestleMania in New Orleans and Dallas, those flights were around the $325 range round trip.
Which that's not terrible.
It's not terrible. That's much what I was planning to spend. Las Vegas is one of the hotbeds of this country. Planes are literally going in and out of there 24 hours a day.
Yeah, you would think because of the amount of traffic.
This isn't some regional airport. This is a massive airport.
$600. Woo.
Yes.
Woo.
So with that being said, I got a hold of my friends and said, you know what? We got to slow down our travel plans. We got to figure out, because we can't just keep waiting on this and then get to it eventually. Because that's what I like to normally do, about a month in advance. Then we get on it. But no, we had to get on it now because of the prices. I did have some travel points and I brought it down from $600 with some discounts I had, but I had to sew it down.
Sure.
So as soon as we sewed this down, and I will let you know that actually I'm free for most of the month of August, or at least I'm free in the sense of I could have picked any random time to go in the month of August.
Yes.
But we sewed down this. Friends got vacation time. This week, this is the week we're going to go. Told everybody needs to know this is our week. And then literally, I want to say 3-4 days after, I put it in, stamp it in the annals of the airline log, in which is non-refundable and non-changeable, is when SummerSlam rumors started to come around that it is coming to Las Vegas about a week after I plan to be there at Allegiant Stadium. Now, one thing sews up for certain is I've checked the Raiders' schedule. They're playing I'm leaving Las Vegas on a Monday morning, and on a Saturday, 2 days before, they are playing at home. So that weekend at Allegiant Stadium is completely all sewn up. They're not coming that weekend. Now, nothing from WWE as of this recording has been announced, but I can pretty much assure you if they're going to Allegiant Stadium, they're not going that weekend. The Raiders are playing on a Saturday night.
Sure.
That's way too short of a turnaround.
Yeah.
Now,
a little bit.
There is a Manny Pacquiao fight on the 21st, which is the following Saturday, which a lot of people think would stop WWE from wanting to go to Las Vegas that weekend, especially because rumors are Pacquiao wants to book Allegiant Stadium for that weekend.
Of course, why not?
But as of right now, and the rumors day in and day out are getting stronger and stronger, that regardless of the date, WWE is coming to Allegiant Stadium, not T-Mobile Arena, Allegiant Stadium, 70,000 plus, SummerSlam, either August 22nd or there's strong rumors that it will be August 21st, a Saturday night, and as well as another day in mind, August the 7th, which is a Saturday night as well. Now, August 7th seems a little weird because it's only 3 weeks following Money in the Bank.
Sure.
But what did we see this year between pay-per-views leading up to WrestleMania?
Yeah. So,
Yes.
I mean, it might be done. I mean,
It might be August the 7th. I can pretty much tell you it's not going to be August the 14th or 15th because 14th, the Raiders are home. And
if I'm not mistaken, that'll be the first game that fans have seen in Allegiant Stadium, because last year the owner, Mr. Davis, the owner Davis, he said last year during the pandemic,
Correct.
no fans will be there.
So I will be there the night that the Raiders are home. I actually don't know if I'll be there. I'm going to do some traveling around the area.
If you're there, you got to go. You're
tickets start at $190.
Oh, that's fine. You can do that.
Well, again, here's the thing. I can do that, I guess, if you can say I can splurge, but the splurging might come from me having to then find a way to go to SummerSlam, whether it be flying out the following weekend.
But I'm not going to lie, man. Like, if I was in your shoes and I knew I know it's not a regular season game. But
Yes, I understand.
The first football game, the first Raiders game at their stadium, preseason, whatever, you're there. That's cool. You keep that ticket stub. You can say, yeah, I was the first set of fans to watch a football game there. That's pretty cool.
No, that is pretty cool. Unfortunately, too, I also had some plans to go out of Las Vegas to visit Salt Lake City for a day or two, and that was kind of the day. So I don't know technically if I'll be within Las Vegas. Obviously, plans would have changed if that day was SummerSlam.
Sure, of course.
But I do want to go to that stadium. I like seeing stadiums. I'm a big fan of seeing all that stuff.
I know you
So
are.
the fact that SummerSlam is going to be at a stadium, and essentially, if it's going to be at the stadium, they're giving it the WrestleMania treatment. I'm hearing rumors that there's a big-time host. Again, they want to move it to a Saturday night.
Wow.
So it's not just that I'm going to be in the Las Vegas area, but I feel like if it was, a week or two later and it was at T-Mobile, maybe then I'd skip out on it. But if they're going to give it the WrestleMania treatment, then I got to go. And it really sucks because I have, for many years, before they even had a worthy stadium in Las Vegas, because they haven't,
Sure.
I thought this would be a perfect place for WrestleMania. And I would love to go here because it's already a place I like to go.
You know what, though? It's funny you say that. A lot of wrestling fans that I've talked to, a lot of people inside the industry think Vegas is not a great wrestling town.
It is, the issue,
traditionally speaking.
The issue is with Las Vegas being a wrestling town is it's a decent-sized city.
Sure.
But it has no suburbs. I mean, it has suburbs within Las Vegas, but outside of Las Vegas, you are miles from anything else.
Yeah.
So you do not have what we have here in Syracuse, let's say.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. It's kind of like you got the city. As soon as you get out the city limits, you're kind of like,
yes,
yeah,
no.
like, yeah.
So here in Syracuse, we can drive to Buffalo. We can drive to Albany.
Sure.
We can drive to New York City. Those are close places. Las Vegas doesn't really have that. Los Angeles is 4 hours away. Salt Lake City is about 4.5, 5 hours away. Phoenix as well is about 4.5, 5 hours away. But there is nothing in between those two locations. Those are like it'd be like New York City to Buffalo with only a truck stop in between, without the Syracuse, Binghamton, Rochester's in between.
Yeah, it's
there's
pretty
no
much, there's not much.
big major hub areas in between, and that's I think what it affects it. Obviously, Toronto draws from out more than just Toronto. New York
Sure.
City draws from New Jersey, Philly, Boston,
Connecticut.
those areas.
Yeah.
Las Vegas draws from only Las Vegas.
You're right, because like you said, if you go to Toronto, you're getting some people from Buffalo coming in,
Yes.
Rochester. There's a
Exactly.
lot. It's enough of it. It's not a far enough drive where it kind of says, "Oh no, I'm not going to go." You're right, though. Vegas is kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it is. It is essentially in the middle of nowhere. So while it is a very decently populated area, and it's getting bigger and bigger as it gets more popular,
Sure.
and more people move out there, I think it's a little over 1 million people living there now. The issue is, though, there is nobody outside of those areas. Los Angeles, you'd have to drive in for 4 hours. There's no between like San Bernardino, which is like 3.5 hours to Las Vegas.
Sure.
There's like desert in between. There's there's no 30,000 plus cities. There's no,
Yep.
like we're here in Syracuse, we have little college towns. There's none of those in between. There's no colleges
Yeah, we
between.
got a lot of college towns.
Between like, the Grand Canyon and in the Arizona area and Las Vegas. Yeah, there's really no towns that are like 50,000 plus.
So it's pretty much. I'm sure you've driven those roads, right?
I have. I've driven those roads a few times. I've driven from LA to Las Vegas. I've driven from Albuquerque through Phoenix.
So in your experience, because I've never been that far west. I've been as far west as Texas. Is it pretty much you get to a few, mom and pop gas stations? That's about it.
That is about it.
Wow.
I would say there's certain Las Vegas is a little bit better because it's getting more populated. But if you want to drive, the deadest road I've ever driven was from Denver down to Albuquerque. Now, once I crossed the border into New Mexico, it was like 2.5 hours from the border to Albuquerque, and it was dead. It was no cell phone service, no gas stations. I remember seeing a sign for Las Vegas, not Las Vegas, Nevada, Las Vegas, New Mexico. It was 127 miles away. And when I stopped off, I asked the lady, is this a bigger place than I've heard of? I'm not familiar with this Las Vegas, New Mexico that's 128 miles away. Why is it on a sign? Why would you need to tell me 2 hours in advance? And she said, because that's essentially the next stop of gas. So,
wow.
I will say also as well,
Oof.
I was driving from the Grand Canyon to Las Vegas, which is about 4 hours, and I stopped off for some gas. And I want to say the gas, I mean, this is at a time gas here on the East Coast was probably in the $2.50 range. Gas was like $5.25 a gallon. And I looked at my car and I saw that I had 30 miles left till empty tank. And $5.25 a gallon is quite a bit. So I found out that there was another gas station 29 miles away. So I hopped on the highway and I went 29 miles and there was nothing in between, no gas stations to stop at. Then that was the next one, 29 miles. And I stopped there, $5.85 a gallon.
Oh, brutal. But you had to get it.
But then I had to get it.
You were like
I had
3
to
miles
get it.
empty
Yes.
at that point.
And then there was not another gas station for like 50 miles after that.
Yeah.
So yes, things are few and far between. So that is why Las Vegas is not a great town. Things like Pacquiao fights or Mayweather fights, they bring people in and they bring in celebrities. And I think that would be actually also a detriment to having a Pacquiao fight, let's say the same weekend as SummerSlam, because that drives the prices of hotel rooms up.
Yeah.
And if you drive those up, unfortunately, you might keep some fans from flying in because then they say, you know what, we can't really afford it. The people who go to these heavyweight fights, they are much more into money than the wrestling fans.
Yes.
Those are the people who go to the Super Bowl are okay with paying $600 a night for a room, $125 to park at the stadium, a $95 Uber ride, all that kind of stuff. That goes with
$1,000 for tickets.
Yeah, because the Super Bowl drives those prices up, but wrestling doesn't do that. When I went to Tampa or New Orleans, it's the normal prices for those things that weekend. WrestleMania doesn't drive them up.
That's the thing, too. Like, as you know, wrestling fans are pretty much a blue-collar kind of...
They spend money on the tickets, not on the accommodations.
You got it.
Yeah, so there's some people who spend $1,000 on the tickets, but they're staying at the Motel 6. So
I mean, I get that. I mean, we're blue collar fans.
So I don't see like 70,000. And again, it's a lot of families. So again, trying to draw 70,000 the same weekend of the Mayweather fight. If some of those hotels get thrown up in the $500-$600 a night range because there's a big, money fight, it's going to price out some people who might have flown in or drove in from the nearby areas.
Yeah, that's a little pricey.
So we'll find out. I'm going to try to attend it, and mostly I'm going to try to attend it because if it's going to be treated like a WrestleMania, then that's what I mean, how could I not? That's what I would probably rather attend SummerSlam than maybe next year's WrestleMania in Dallas. I've been to Dallas before. I've been to a WrestleMania there before.
Dallas is a great city.
I've never been to Allegiant Stadium.
Nobody really has. So.
Well, that's true. Nobody really has. I've never been to Allegiant Stadium. It's supposed to be a great stadium, and if SummerSlam is going to be, well, it could be the first event there in front of people if it takes place before the Raiders Stadium.
Yeah.
And maybe that is why they're talking the week before and not the week after. Because we've talked back in the day, Vince has always got this thing about getting on things, like wanting to go to SoFi Stadium before the Super Bowl, wanting to go to MetLife Stadium before the Super Bowl was there. So, maybe that could be a reason why they want to do the August 7th versus the August 22nd, because the idea is, well, we want to hit it beforehand. Because they could easily go after. Once the Raiders are there, they're not there again until regular season football, which is a month away.
And here's the thing, too. They can brand it forever. We were the first with fans.
Yes. They can set the attendance record on day one at that place.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter what the attendance is.
I don't know who the big name is that they're talking about that's going to come in, but SummerSlam, Las Vegas.
I got one for you. Floyd Money Mayweather. There you go. That's a name. Vegas.
That wouldn't surprise me.
That'd be a draw right there.
That'd be a draw. I mean, he does own a few strip clubs there as well, which I want to hit up. So moving on from that big SummerSlam talk, Adnan Virk, he's out for Monday Night Raw.
Wow, that was quick.
That was very quick. I probably only heard him speak about 2 or 3 times because in the times I was watching Raw, sometimes I was watching it without sound on. I guess I heard him a lot during WrestleMania Backlash. It was mostly like it's Saxton and Graves, man. Like that's really what those two were carrying the show, and I have nothing but respect for Adnan Virk. He's done a lot of great things in the business. So in not only wrestling business, because I mean, I give him credit for what he did here. Yes,
but in the landscape of the sports world, the guy's good.
He liked to play it off like it was a little more mutual, because he cited on Twitter that in the statement he made, travel was a concern. It kept
wait a second. Let me stop you there. I heard you say travel. The only thing I got to say to Adnan Virk is travel. It's WWE. Like, we know the pandemic.
They haven't even traveled.
Yeah, that's
the issue.
Yeah, like, dude, they're gonna travel regardless. Like, come on.
Like, what travel is he talking? Is he talking about his personal travel from like the New York City area where he might live down to Florida? Because let me tell you, again, when you got hired, that would literally, I said this to Boy Green, who brought this to my attention the other day. I said this to him. That would literally be like me talking about working at a stadium. Like, let's say I just started working at MetLife Stadium last year as a security guard, and I had to quit because too many fans.
Yeah, dude.
Like, dude,
it
they
makes zero
didn't even
sense.
have fans yet.
Yeah,
like, the travel, WWE, what's probably more prominent than the wrestling in WWE is their travel. They travel more than they wrestle.
Yeah,
so
no,
they
true.
are the most travel. They travel more than bands. They travel more than any other sports team.
300 days a year, man.
And you worked there the only month in which they did no travel, at least from a perspective they traveled. You might have traveled, but WWE is normally the most travel-heavy company of all companies in the entire world, and you worked there during a month in which they did no traveling.
It's over 300 days a year.
Yes. So you
Easily.
you were with WWE when they were traveling 0 days. On their average is about 300. So you can't cite travel because when you got hired, you had to know. That would literally be like me working a concert tour and be like, we haven't even gone on tour yet, and be like, the travel's getting too much. And be like, we haven't even gone on tour yet.
Yeah.
We haven't even traveled.
But I will say this, best of luck to him. I mean, I'm sure he's going to be fine. He's got a lot of stuff, I'm sure, on his plate.
A lot of us probably thought that it was going to fill in for him now. It's just going to move Tom Phillips back over to Monday Night Raw, but that is not the case.
Yeah, Tommy.
Today, Tom has been released.
Yeah, Tom Phillips, we'll see you later, man. Best wishes to you. Jimmy Smith.
Yes.
That's so for wrestling fans that are not familiar.
Like myself.
He is. He's very prominent in the MMA world. So I'm not. I'm an MMA guy. I'm more of a Joe Rogan guy than anything else because Joe Rogan's Joe Rogan. But I have heard of Jimmy Smith. I've seen some of his work. I'm curious to see how he's going to translate from the MMA game to sports entertainment. I'm sure he's going to do fine. I know Michael Cole's high on him. By all reports out there, Michael Cole is very high on him. So we'll see what happens.
No, I'm curious. Obviously, I think people coming over from the MMA world have a little bit better of a chance because I feel like MMA still focuses a little on the entertainment, on the fight spec. Adam Verk was a sports guy.
Yeah, Verk was definitely a sports guy. I mean, I think he's really good at baseball.
And he's not even, he's decent at baseball, but I feel like he's more of like a sports center kind of guy.
Sure, yeah.
He's more like a news reporter. He's not, I don't even think his play-by-play is the highest.
He's not terrible. I'm he's
not terrible, but
no.
what he does in play-by-play,
I
like
agree.
he didn't come over from being like some big, like he didn't come over from being like the NBA as the most boisterous, like NBA Jam Boom Shakalaka kind
he
of
wasn't
broadcaster.
like Gus Johnson,
Yes, no,
Gus
he
Johnson
wasn't. So when he came over, he was more like a guy who was covering baseball.
He's good
golf.
at reading. He's good at reading off the teleprompter. I get it.
And he's good at some of the slower sports, in which wrestling is the complete opposite of that.
Yeah, there was.
So
yeah, I mean, honestly, I wish him the best, but it really wasn't a good fit. So I'm curious to see how Jimmy does. We'll see how he does because here's the thing, Jimmy, you're in Monday. We'll see you then.
Yeah. I mean, kind of like Ed Enverk, he didn't really have any practice. Jimmy's in.
Yep.
Hopefully he's pretty good. If not, then
we'll see somebody
We don't
else.
have Tom Phillips as a backup. That is a curiosity. I'd love to know more about Tom Phillips because he's been there for a while. Even when they took him off of TV, I mean, he had so many roles backstage. He's not, a young guy there.
He's been there a while. So I mean,
getting rid of him would be the same as getting rid of Saxton, if not probably worse, because I feel like Tom's probably even had more responsibilities than Saxton.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what that was. So maybe we'll see some stuff leaking out. And speaking of stuff that kind of leaked throughout after we recorded, got to bring it up. I don't know if we're going to talk about it.
A week later, Velveteen Dream.
Velveteen Dream. That came out literally, and I texted you like a couple hours after recording. I was like, man, that's the name that I was like, whoo, as soon as I saw that. I mean, I don't know what to make of that. I mean, Triple H and all the other, all the other reps at WWE said that, it wasn't anything to do with the social media stuff that's been going on. So what is it then? Why did they cut ties from it?
I think because I think it did have to do with that. Clearly, I mean,
had to be,
Velveteen
right?
Dream did put out a statement. That's kind of been what's keeping him off TV and stuff. That's what's keeping his career kind of not moving forward. And then essentially enough time has passed where they feel like people might not be as up. If they brought him back and then released him, it's a bigger deal. Kind of keep him, off on the shelf for a little bit and then kind of let things simmer out. And then when he was on the shelf for so long, got dusty and they threw him away.
Yeah, and you know what? And the unfortunate part was he had such a bright future. And if everything really is true, that's very unfortunate. But it's across.
We never got to see him on the main roster.
Yeah, I know, and that's crazy because before all this stuff came out, he was literally, we talked about it all the time. When's he getting called up? And guess what? We're probably never going to know.
Yes. No. Well, we unless he makes another return to WWE in the future. Never say never, but as of right now, no Velveteen Dream.
Do you see him in AEW?
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, I don't see him wrestling for a few more minutes at least.
Yeah,
I don't know where I see him in the
either.
future, but just let him cool down for a little bit, and then I might see him. We don't know where we'll see him down the line. Ring of Honor?
I mean, yeah, Ring of Honor could be something. Impact. Unfortunately, I'm not, you know me, I'm not a big Impact guy, but I could see him going there. I know Chelsea Green is in contract, or I don't know if she signed the contract with Impact.
Again, this all, what I think would definitely bring his stock up, obviously, Impact, when these places start wrestling in front of fans again as well.
Sure, for sure. And the downside is, too, like, he had such a bright future, and obviously with everything going on, he's got a lot of personal issues, and unfortunately, with those personal issues, he essentially at this point is throwing away a really good career.
What's next for Finn Balor over on NXT as he lost to Karrion Kross this week as Karrion Kross retained his championship belt?
Great match, by the way.
Yes.
That was a fantastic match.
Worthy of making a poster for it for sale on WWE.com, worthy?
Yeah, why the hell not? Why not make some money on it? But
they make money on everything.
Well, that's true. But I have to say, it was for being on regular TV, it was fantastic. That could have been an NXT TakeOver main event. That's how good that match was. I enjoyed every second of it. And the nice thing I liked, yes, did Balor lose? Yes. But he still looked good in the process.
So what's next for Balor, you think?
Honestly, I would like to see him wrestle Walter, UK style. Do I see him on the main roster? I don't think he wants to go to the main roster at this point. He hasn't indicated what he wants to do, but obviously he's happy in NXT. So why not have a program with Walter? I think that would be where you go. So guess what? Where is he from? He's from the UK. Why not try to go challenge for, I think, Walter's got what? He's got a couple years in now for that title. Yeah. So, why not make that an NXT UK championship? That'd be kind of fun.
And again, obviously, we're talking about SummerSlam coming up, and they're making it a big deal.
Yeah.
We're talking people like John Cena could make an appearance. Brock Lesnar could be coming back. So maybe, I don't know if there's going to be a takeover surrounding SummerSlam weekend.
I would love to see that.
But if Finn Balor and Walter either at a takeover or at SummerSlam itself.
Yeah, that right there, that would be a match. Walter's fantastic, and obviously Finn Balor's done great things over the years. So I would enjoy that personally, but here's what we got to say. We just got to wait and see what happens. That's it.
We got AEW Double or Nothing coming up this Sunday night on pay-per-view in front of a full house at Daly's Place. Can't pretty wait. Stacked card.
Yeah.
We still actually have a Dynamite before then, Friday night at 10 o'clock live.
Yeah.
Talk about a fun weekend for wrestling fans.
I know.
They don't want to go against SmackDown, so they're putting on Dynamite at 10 o'clock because they were preempted on Wednesday this week.
And there's a fan fest on Saturday.
So, yes, you go to a 10 o'clock at night, Dynamite. That keeps you there till midnight. That's, gets you jacked. You go out to dinner beforehand. Maybe you watch SmackDown at the restaurant.
Sure.
You go to Dynamite. You wake up the next morning from your hotel room. You go to this fan fest.
Yes.
Then Sunday, because it's a holiday weekend here in the United States, so, you fly out Monday morning, without missing work.
You go back to work Tuesday. No big deal.
Just a fun 3 day. And as we talked, Florida's a pretty cheap place to go. Jacksonville is definitely not an expensive place to stay.
Not at all. So
yes.
you're going to make out not burning too much money out of your pocket.
Yes, and Jacksonville's kind of a city in which, to be honest with you, isn't that exciting. So if you have wrestling kind of sprinkled in there, then if there were some things you wanted to do in Jacksonville, it doesn't seem like overbearing that you have a full day in Jacksonville. What are we going to do with a full day in Jacksonville? Well, now you don't have to have a full day. You got the pay-per-view at night. So if you wanted to see the zoo or aquarium or go check out a minor league baseball game, they've got one of those. You can go check that out for a few hours and then go hit something to eat. Then you got wrestling. Go check out the zoo for a couple hours, get something to eat, watch wrestling.
I'm telling you, this Double or Nothing looks like it's going to be the best card of the year from any promotion. This is, we're gonna go through it here in just a second.
Let's go through it. We got Serena Deeb, who is the NWA Women's Champion right now, and for those locally, when 2CW makes their return on September the 30th and October the 1st, it's now going to be two shows, Elmira and Syracuse.
You going to both?
Oh, well, the second night shows, I don't know if tickets have went on sale yet, but I've already got tickets for the first show from when it was supposed to happen last year.
Yeah.
But the October 1st in Syracuse at the Pastime Athletic Club here, Serena Deeb will be a part of that show. Sweet. On October 1st. She's going to be defending the NWA Women's World Championship against Rio. That is actually on the pre-show of that.
So it's the buy-in.
The buy-in, as they call it. It's so weird because they called it the buy-in for the first, and I just thought that was a gimmick with the whole,
that's the pre-show.
With the whole Double or Nothing. Because again, remember Double or Nothing? Its origins, Las Vegas.
Sure. I like it. I like the word buy-in because I think buy-in starts at 7:30. So
Yes. But then we move on to the
Eastern.
main card. You got the Young Bucks against John Moxley and Eddie Kingston for the tag team championships. Who you like in this one?
You know where I'm going on this one. Mox and Kingston, man. I'm going with it. And here's the thing. That is going to be the main event. That's going to be that is going to be the match you're going to talk about on Monday, because that to me is going to tear the house down. Mox and Kingston are fantastic. The Bucks are the Bucks. So I mean, I'm so excited. You can tell the sarcasm in my voice. Yeah. So excited to get how many stars we're going to get from Meltzer. But in reality, that match could be match of the night. That's going to be a lot of fun, and I really am hoping. I think Moxley and Kingston are going to win.
Sting and Darby Allin against Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. What do you like now?
Very interesting. And this is Sting's first in-ring match, I think, in 5-6 years. So, because they don't, the cinematics.
Yes.
So, like the actual in-ring in front of fans in 5-6 years. I mean, why the hell wouldn't you go with Sting on this one? Sting and Darby are winning that match.
We're getting another Stadium Stampede match. And if the Inner Circle lose, they must disband as a team. It's the Inner Circle against the Pinnacle. The Pinnacle's MJF, Warlow, Sean Spears, and Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood, FTR.
Yep.
Who you like this one? Is it the Inner Circle versus the Pinnacle? What wasn't the Inner Circle versus Elite? What was it, the Elite?
Yeah, last year.
Versus Inner Circle?
Yeah, last
And now
time.
it's Inner Circle versus the Pinnacle?
Yes.
In this Stadium Stampede match?
I do, and here's the thing. The Pinnacle won the Blood and Guts.
Yes.
So I think Inner Circle wins, and I think they got to go to a third match to break the tie.
So it's not official yet. Miro has on Dynamite defending the TNT Championship against Dante Martin, but the winner of that match, probably Miro, as he's current champion currently, will take on Lance Archer for the TNT Championship.
Man, that's going to be a match. Woo! And here's the thing: as much as I love Archer, I'm a big fan of what he's been doing. You just put the belt on Miro. You can't take the belt off him at this point. It's going to be that's going to be a bruise. That's going to be a bruise fest right there. Those two boys are going to throw some bombs. That's a heavyweight affair right there. So I think Miro's going to win. I'm not worried about Miro. Friday night, I think he'll take care of business there with Dante, and then that's going to be a great match.
Adam Page and Adam Page and Brian Cage. Page and Cage.
Can't forget that.
Going against each other. Well, you can screw it up, which I thought I did. I was like, Adam Page. I'm like, wait, no.
You were thinking about it for a second.
I didn't screw it up, but I thought I screwed it up. But they're going on one-on-one against each other. I think I like Brian Cage here. I think I like him looking a little strong. Try to promote him up a little much.
I'm going with the other way. I'm going Hangman on this one.
All right, who do you got? Speaking of the old Las Vegas theme, something that started the first Double or Nothing, and here we are, Casino Battle Royal for a future shot at the AEW World Championship. You got Christian Cage, Matt Sydal, Powerhouse Hobbs, Penta El Zoro, Jungle Boy, Matt Hardy, Mark Queen, Isaiah Cassidy.
Mark Quinn.
Mark Quinn. Sorry, no extra E there. Isaiah Cassidy, The Blade, Evil Uno, Colt Cabana, Preston Vance, Griff Garrison, Brian Pillman Jr., Max Caster, Anthony Bowens, QT Marshall, Nick Camarado, Dustin Rhodes, and Lee Johnson, as well as the TBD.
I mean, I would normally go with TBD, but who the hell's gonna be the TBD? So out of the list that you gave, I'm gonna go with Jungle Boy.
Let's go Brian Pillman Jr.
I like it.
I mean, that would be he just obviously got a little promoted in the spotlight with the dark side of the ring about his dad a couple days ago. So let's keep the promotion of him going.
I just hope they don't create any issues with him and Griff Garrison. I really like them as the Hollywood Blondes.
Cody Rhodes as the American Dream, apparently, going against Anthony Ogogo. I'm going to go Anthony because Cody Rhodes is one of those kind of guys that I feel like he gives back to the business.
Yeah, I have to go with I got to go with Ogogo. I think, and here's the thing, there's a lot of storylines going into this. If I'm not mistaken, Ogogo was somebody that Cody brought him to TK, Tony Khan's attention, and now it's kind of backfiring a little bit because Cody's like, this guy's got a lot of talent. He's got the ability. I'll teach him the wrestling side of the business. And look what happens. QT Marshall brainwashes him, and now they're facing off. So Ogogo's winning that.
Cody Rhodes did state this week when it comes to the TNT Championship, and obviously with AEW moving over to TBS, that he believes that the championship will still stay as the TNT Championship. I mean, it's still owned by Turner, so it's not like if they move over to the USA Network, stuff like that would have to change. But staying within the family.
And actually, real quick note. I meant to say Varsity Blondes, Hollywood Blondes, different.
Well,
correction there.
The new Hollywood Blondes, known as the Varsity Blondes, the modern day.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, Britt Baker. She gets a shot at the AEW Women's Championship against Sheeta. Do you see her leaving here with the champions? I do. I think it's Britt Baker's time. She's I feel like for somebody, she's been in the spotlight a ton for not having a championship. She reminds me of AEW's version of Bayley when it comes to like her talking. I guess remember Bayley at WrestleMania and her little like interrupting people.
I'm with you.
And wanting to always be like, excuse me, tension on me.
I mean, she's done it all, man, except having that belt. So as much as I love Sheeta, she's been a hell of a champion for a year. It would be full circle because she's been champion for a year. I do think Britt Baker is winning that. I think it's time. I think it's time to put the belt on her. She's done a hell of a job, since she's been in AEW. So why the hell not at this point?
And the main event, Kenny Omega defending the AEW championship. He's got a lot of belts, but he's just defending the AEW one against Orange Cassidy and Pac in a triple threat match.
I mean, I'm gonna stick with Kenny. I think Kenny's. I mean, he's on a roll right now. And actually, before we leave, I got to ask you. Speaking of Kenny. There was a lot of stuff going on social media about people were getting bent out of shape about Kenny being overrated, and then they were talking about Randy Orton being the better wrestler. Jim Ross kind of stirred the pot a little bit because Jim Ross said Randy Orton's the best wrestler in the business. So, but I got to ask you about that since we're talking about Kenny Omega. I have to say this: Kenny Omega's winning the champion. He's going to retain the championship this week, and I'm not worried about that. But I have to ask you this: who is the best wrestler in the business today? I have to ask you that.
It's hard because they don't face each other. So
just based on what their body of work.
Yeah, I mean, you got to go Randy Orton.
100%. I just had to ask you because to me, and there's no disrespect to Roman Reigns because Roman Reigns is having a hell of a program. Kenny Omega's doing a hell of a job as well. But the overall business side of things,
it's hard though. But you know what? Here's the issue though. Randy Orton's only been in WWE.
Yeah,
Kenny Omega has done a lot in a short period of time. Not just in AEW, but I mean, he's
no offense
won
to Kenny Omega, though. He hasn't done it at the big leagues.
Well,
I know that's going to ruffle feathers because, AEW is the big leagues. It's not WWE. WWE's been the most established sports entertainment brand in the history of sports entertainment.
I would probably disagree with you there. I mean, if I could choose as a wrestler to hold the WWE championship once or all of those other championships once, I might pick all of those other championships because those are going to tell me I've had a more storied career because people have held the WWE championship once who literally are out of wrestling. If you hold those other belts, that literally puts your name in all those places.
How many
Kofi Kingston.
How many of those Japanese wrestlers have come over here and been the IWGP champion and have done a damn thing over here?
I will just say this much though, from a career perspective and a job stability perspective.
That's like AAA.
I would say from a job stability perspective, I would rather be in Kenny Omega's shoes than Kofi Kingston's shoes. If Kofi Kingston is let go from WWE, if he's let go, they release him from WWE, I don't think he's got as many avenues to go down to be back in a main event scene as Kenny Omega.
He does.
Because Kenny Omega can be right in the main event New Japan.
Kofi Kingston can go anywhere.
Think if Kofi Kingston's let go from WWE, they're gonna he's right in the main event picture.
Why not?
In AEW, Impact, Ring of Honor, New Japan, AAA, all of those.
Kofi Kingston can do it all. Because I know Kofi Kingston is one of the most underrated wrestlers of all time. I don't care what anybody says. Well, he didn't get his due for, remember the Kofi Mania? That is no joke. Like he got crapped on for so long. He did his thing. He didn't politic. He just did his thing. And he crushed it, and he had a great run with Kofi Mania. I don't care what anybody says. Kofi is one of the most underrated wrestlers, and with everything going on in the world, in that spectrum, it's good to have that kind of face on the platform.
Well, that's gonna finish us out this week because I wanted to talk about it, but we don't have any time. But next week,
of course we know.
Kofi Mania Part 2. Is that on our horizon?
Oh, interesting. I guess we'll have to wait to see about next week.
Yes, obviously Kofi Kingston, a lot of people are talking about him being back in the main event scene. Could Kofi Mania 2 be on the horizon? Could SummerSlam at Allegiant Stadium be the coronation of his return to the championship picture? We'll talk that and more next week. For Brandon, I'm Jared. This has been another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast.